Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. In today's gear video, I have a pretty important subject, and that's gonna be backcountry first aid kits. But before we get into it, I do wanna thank the sponsor of this video, which is gonna be Alpine Style ADV Products. They sent me this med kit, and it's now my personal first aid kit. So if you've watched this channel for a little bit, then you've probably seen me ride in a whole variety of conditions. I've gone riding in good weather. I've gone riding in bad weather. I've gone riding in the mountains like where I am now. I've gone riding in the deserts. I've ridden really technical trails, ones that are goat tracks on the edge of cliffs. I've ridden all kinds of stuff. I've crashed plenty of times as well on this channel. So as I get older and hopefully less naive about the potential of me getting hurt on one of these adventures, these are becoming more and more important to me. First aid kits are something that I, for a long time, didn't take super seriously, or I irresponsibly just imagined that somebody else in the group would have the first aid kit, or things like that. And so I was really excited when I got sent this kit because I think it's something that I've needed to look into a lot more for a good while now. And so we're gonna talk about the things that I like, the things that I dislike, as well as some of the things that I have added to this kit to make it better suit my needs. So when I open this up, the first thing that I really like is that though there is a lot of stuff in here, it's been organized in a way that kind of sections everything out between large to small. On the far left side, I have all my small comfort items, and then across the rest of the kit, we have all the bigger tools and first aid items. Starting with one of the small items, we have Advil, which is gonna be a great non-narcotic pain relief. It is one of those things though where people have their preferences. You might be a Motrin person, you might be an Advil person, whatever it is. I like both, so I keep this in the kit. Next up, we have Benadryl. And Benadryl, kind of like Advil, people have their preferences. You might be a Zyrtec person, you might be a Benadryl person. Throw what you want in your kit, but I like Benadryl. Benadryl works good for me. Next up, we have Tums. And Tums are a really great item if you've been out on the trail for like 2 weeks and say you go into town and you have real food for the first time in a while. Give it 30 minutes and you're gonna be happy you have these. Next is chapstick. This thing is like the holy grail, in my mind at least. I'm the kind of guy where I must go through a dozen tubes of chapstick every single year because I leave the house, I think I have one in my pocket, turns out I don't, and then I go home to look for my chapstick and it's mysteriously disappeared. So great item to have in the kit and just leave in the kit, just forget it's in there, and then you're out on a trail somewhere and you remember you have it. It's awesome, it's a lifesaver. Next up, we have anti-diarrheal pills. This is something that I hope you never have to use and something that I hope I never have to use. But I'll tell you one thing, if you do need it, you'll be pretty stoked you got it. So I'm glad they have this in the kit. Next, we got tweezers. And this is really useful if you're way out in the boonies and you got a splinter, you got something embedded in your skin, maybe you got some road rash and you're picking the rocks out. Don't be the kind of guy to grab your knife and start digging rocks or splinters out of your skin or whatever it is. Don't do that, it'll just make a mess. Tweezers are much better of an option. Next, we have a tampon. And I realize this is probably going to apply to female viewers and not the men, but I could see the application of it. You know, say you get some kind of puncture wound or something, that could be useful. Last small item, we have toe warmers. Toe warmers alongside hand warmers, alongside body warmers are really great tools. I'll throw these in my sleeping bag and it is really nice. So I love these. All right, now moving on to some of the bigger items in the kit, we have a toe strap and we have paracord. Both of these items have so many uses and are probably some of the most useful things in the kit. Whether you're pulling your buddy out of a ditch or you got to tie something down to your bike, the toe strap is going to be useful. The paracord, you can get all kinds of creative with it. Maybe you're hanging your food in a tree. Maybe you have to tie down your bag. I've had buckles break before and I've used paracord to repair that or just hold things together. All kinds of uses for these. So even though this is a first aid kit, these definitely belong. Next up, we have a tourniquet. This is another one of those things that I hope that I never have to use, whether it be on me or somebody with me at the time. I never want to use one of these, but I do know that, God forbid, you do need one of these, you will be so happy you have it, because this could literally mean you die or you don't die. So this is one of those things that's absolutely essential in any kind of backcountry first aid kit. I would say it's useful in any kind of first aid kit, but especially one that you're going to take out into the middle of the wilderness. Next up is compression tape. Compression tape is something that I think belongs in every first aid kit, whether it be for wilderness or just one you keep in your truck or in your house or whatever. It's a good general item just to have. Next, we have an emergency blanket. This is something that I have a special relationship with because I really wish I had one of these. Like 3 months ago when I got stuck out on a trail with my buddy, we didn't have any kind of bivvy, any kind of blanket, we had nothing. So if I had one of these at the time, I probably would have been a lot happier. So good that they put this in there. Next up, we have a small folding Gerber knife. I would say anytime you go out anywhere at a cell service, or you know what, even in day-to-day life, I think everybody should have some kind of blade or some kind of cutting instrument with them. So I personally have my own. I carry one in my pocket or on my vest or wherever. I always have some kind of blade with me at any given moment, but I do like that they added this one to the kit because maybe you're not the kind of person that carries some kind of blade with you, so good thing to have. Next up, we have trauma shears. Trauma shears are gonna be the thing where, let's just say you're out riding with a group or you're just out riding with your buddy, you see somebody or your buddy crash in front of you, they're passed out, they're on the ground. The last thing you really wanna do is jump all over them and start moving them around. So the trauma shears, this is gonna be the thing that you're gonna wanna use if your buddy is passed out after a crash and you can kind of figure out where the injury point is. You could use this to cut away his clothing instead of trying to move him around, because anytime there's a potential to have broken bones or a broken spine or a broken femur, those two things especially, you really don't want to move that person that was injured. If you do, you might cause more damage to their spine or worse, leave them paralyzed. And then for the femur, there's all kinds of arteries in your leg. I believe the main one's the femoral artery. If they have a broken femur, you don't want to move their leg that much, because that could nick the femoral artery and then boom, your buddy's bleeding out. So this is one of those things that I think every kind of wilderness first aid kit definitely needs to have. Next, we got zip ties. Zip ties are the gift that keep on giving. I think half of my life is probably held up with zip ties at this point, but I love these. I have some of these in my toolkit alongside wire ties. They're just great items to have, and I realize this is a med kit, it's for first aid, but there's so many uses for zip ties, so I do think they have a place in any kind of first aid kit. So I think this was a good kind of out-of-the-box thinking on this company to add. Okay, now for one of the biggest and bulkiest items in this kit, we have a folding splint. This I kind of place up there with the tourniquet. You don't want to have to use one of these, but it's just really important to have, so I get that it takes up a lot of space in the kit, but for a good reason. Now for the final item in the kit, we have a big old bag full of alcohol prep pads, full of band-aids, suture strips, basically everything you'd need to treat small scrapes and cuts, small wounds that you just don't want to get infected. All that good stuff is in there. So that's the kit. Let's talk about some of the pros and the cons, and I'll start with the pros. The first big one that I already mentioned is that I like that everything is easy for me to navigate. I can figure out where everything is really, really quickly. Second pro, I like that this company thought of not just the big things like the tourniquet or the splint, but they thought about small comfort items as well, because your first aid kit, I don't like the idea that it's only something that you pull out when your buddy has a broken leg. It's nice to think that your first aid kit would have chapstick or Tums to help your stomach, or anti-diarrheal meds if, let's just say, you're really struggling out there in the woods. I really like that they thought of that. That's really good. I also really liked feeling that this wasn't just a first aid kit. There were things in here that weren't directly related to treating a wound. They have the toe strap, they have the paracord, they have the knife, they have the zip ties, they have all kinds of stuff in here that's broadly applicable, and I really, really like that. Okay, now I want to get into some of the cons, and I have a couple little nitpicky ones. My first one being that the knife that comes with the kit, it came pretty dull. So I spent a bit of time sharpening it up. And so if you ever wanted to get your hands on one of these kits, I would say sharpen the knife up, or at least make sure it comes sharp. My next complaint has to do with water damage. I don't always ride in fair weather, and I've been in plenty of situations where I've had this kit with me where it's been dumping rain. I've gone in and looked at certain things in this kit and they look like they're showing signs of water damage. So for example, my gauze, it looks like there's a little bit of mold growing on it. And then on some of the bandages that I have, it looks like there's just signs of water damage. And so these items I'm gonna have to replace. Now granted, this is probably gonna be an issue that a lot of first aid kits have, is that they're not as water repellent as you want them to be. I might go out of my way and just coat the case in beeswax or something just to make it a little bit more water repellent. I don't know, I'm just coming up with an idea off the top of my head. My final complaint is that I think the mounting system could be a little bit better. Part of it's held together with Velcro, and even though the Velcro is pretty sturdy, I have had this kit fall off my bike before and I've had to go and find it. And so that's something that I keep in mind when I'm mounting this kit onto my bike or my panniers. I usually have it sitting right here on my panniers. And so that's something that I've kept in mind now, and I try and have, you know, like a contingency strap, just a second strap going through it. So if the Velcro failed, I would have something else to hold on to the kit. Those are all of my complaints, but I don't want to end on a negative note. So I do want to say, I really like this kit. It's really well put together, and I know that when I look at it fresh out of the box, there was some intent and some real thought that went into putting this together. So I commend the creators of this kit, and I think it's fantastic. Now, before we wrap up this video, I want to talk about the things that I have added to this kit. First up, I have fire starting material. This is something that is so critical to me because I've had so many times when I'm out somewhere and I need to get warm and fast. And so these are very important, and I think they have a place in this first aid kit. Next up, I have body warmers. Just like the toe warmers, I love the body warmers, but I do like that these are a little bit bigger because I can put them in a sleeping bag and I can warm up my bag a lot more efficiently with these. Next up, I have burn spray. So this is important to me because I'm really into motorsports and I'm around hot things like exhaust pipes or engines or whatever it is. So burn spray is really nice. And this is also another item that you could see it's taken on a bit of water damage. This was looking brand new when I put this in the kit, and you could see it's been pretty beat up. Next up, I have polysporin. This is kind of alongside neosporin. You might be a neosporin person, you might be a polysporin person. I had polysporin growing up because my dad was allergic to neosporin, so this was something that I was used to just having in the house. It's basically what you'd use to treat any kind of small wound when you're wrapping it up or putting a Band-Aid on it. It just helps prevent infections. Final item I've added is a cold pack. This is a useful item when maybe it's not a broken bone, maybe instead of a broken arm, you got a sprained wrist, or maybe you have a sprained ankle. Anything that you'd want to reduce inflammation on, cold pack is pretty useful. So that about wraps it up. This is the Just In Case First Aid Kit by Alpine Style ADV Products. I really commend the company that made this kit. I think they did a great job, and I want to thank them again for sending this to me. I really appreciate it, and I think this is something that's going to be with me on a lot of adventures to come. If you guys have any thoughts or comments of things that I should add to this first aid kit, I would really be interested in hearing it. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, do me a favor and hit the like button down below. I'll also leave a link in the description if you want to pick up one of these kits for yourself. And if you guys like this kind of content, definitely subscribe for more videos coming out in the future. And as always, hopefully I will see you guys on the next one.